Welcome to Perth's #1 podcast. You're listening to the Jamo and Dylan Show.
Yeah, we're on the way to Dunsborough. Little mad trip with the boys. We're celebrating.
G'day guys and welcome back to the Jamo and Dylan Show. It is episode 170 today and we're very honoured and privileged to have an Australian UFC fighter making his UFC debut at 284 in Perth. Jack Jenkins, welcome to the show, mate.
Good to be here. Thanks for popping up to the hotel room. Sorry a little bit about the mess, but it's fight week, so we'll do what we can.
Exactly. How is fight week? How are you feeling before your first fight?
Yeah, feeling really good. You know, I was just explaining to you boys earlier about my weight cut, how it's not too drastic compared to what some people do. So had a really good camp, really good lead in, and it's kind of a good feeling once you get over to the hotel and it's go time from there. There's not really much more work to do. You just make the weight, do a few media obligations, and then you get to fight, which is at the end of the day what I really enjoy doing.
Perfect. I know that when I played sport when I was younger, I'd get really nervous and I was just a nervous person, a lot of nervous energy. How do you go with that, especially during fight week and before the fight? It
comes and goes. Definitely earlier on, you have to learn how to deal with it a little bit. Like in my first 3 or 4 fights, you go through a roller coaster of emotions over a fight week. Like everything's so intense, so you can feel great when you wake up and then you get flat by 10 o'clock and then you feel great again at lunch and you're just up and down, and then on fight day the same thing. I think as you get a bit more experience with dealing with it, you just get better at fuck it, I feel how I feel, I've got to deal with it anyway, so we'll just go ahead. But as far as nerves, I get jittery, I get excited, but I don't get nervous, so to speak, of like, I'm worried about this. No, it's just not how I operate, really.
Almost like excited nerves.
Yeah, excited, you know, a little apprehensive, like you just want to go.
Yeah.
It's like, just let me go. Yeah.
How's it been like, so fight week, this is your first UFC fight compared to in previous organisations? Is it a much bigger deal to you, or is it just business as usual?
It's business as usual, 100%. I was telling somebody this morning that I've always treated every fight camp and every prep like the most important fight I'll ever have. Yeah. And in hindsight, looking back, there was times when I thought, fuck, you know, I take this so seriously and that sort of thing. But in hindsight, looking back, that's just put me in such good stead now to deal with the big show, because I always had that pressure on myself to prepare and perform well. So now that I'm here on the big stage, it's no different for me. I'm just doing the same thing on a different platform. Yeah. But in saying that, you don't know what you don't know. So I could get to the venue on Sunday and like, fuck, this is big, you know. So I'll deal with it as it comes. But I know as far as the preparation's gone, I've done the work.
Speaking on the venue, have you ever seen it before?
Never been.
It's awesome.
When's the first time you'll go? Is it on fight day, or will you go before?
I'll go for the weigh-ins.
Weigh-ins. It's a nice venue. It's elite.
Yeah, I actually saw I saw a video, some guy like taking people around explaining, and they've got like a quiet room and shit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's like, but the venue looked really
very
smick.
new.
Yeah, it's pretty modern. 10 years
10
maybe?
years probably.
Yeah,
it's
right.
good.
But no, it's a funny one to look at. Like it just looks abstract from the outside because it was like some artist designed.
It was a big deal when they built it. We didn't have much back then.
Really?
Yeah, it was.
That hosts like the Perth Wildcats, so the NBL team, a lot of concerts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But we actually went and watched the tennis.
They have tennis there,
They have tennis inside there.
multi-purpose.
Yeah, right.
But no, it'll
a bit
be
like
sick.
our Rod Laver in Melbourne.
Yeah, very similar. But yeah, it's a great stadium. I reckon you have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm keen. I've got so many people coming over from home too. So
that's sick.
in that small atmosphere, it's going to pop off, I reckon.
Just touch on home. So like we've done a bit of research and you're from, what, about an hour outside Melbourne?
Yeah, from a little town called Bacchusmarsh. And my parents are from there, and I was born there in the hospital, and I grew up there, and even through most of the start of my career, I still lived there and commuted into the city. So I used to catch a train. I didn't have a car. I used to catch a train, which would take me about an hour and a half to get in. And then I would train at the gym. Some nights I would sleep there on the floor, get up, train the next day, and then catch a train for an hour and a half home. Or some days I would go in on the train and go home on the train. There's something really special about Bacchusmarsh. You know, we're not a different town to any other you might see, but whenever anyone sort of puts himself out there to do anything or try anything, the whole town seems to get behind him. Yeah. Whether it's like maybe a family's gone through some hard times, or the footy club is, or, you know, someone like me who has big dreams wants to go out and do it. It's very much like the whole town will get behind you. Local businesses will, which I've been lucky enough to get with some sponsors who helped me out early on in my career. So it's just really important to me that I maintain that as part of my identity. That's where I'm from, and I'm really proud of it. It's not just a gimmick. It's who I am.
You sold me. I want to go visit now.
sounds amazing, eh?
See, and then if you ask anyone from Melbourne, you're like, yeah, I want to go visit Back of Smash. They'll be like, why the fuck do you want to go there?
I'll say, yeah, I've heard it's a great community.
Yeah. Good people
love.
around. Yeah.
No, that's awesome. And you're just saying it's your second time in Perth.
Yeah, second time. So we had little young Jacob.
Yeah.
He fought here a couple of years ago, and we were staying just up the road. I think we got here the day before weigh-ins. We cut weight. He weighed in. Fight day, we stayed in the hotel, went to the fight, and then we flew out at 6 a.m. the next morning. So we didn't actually get to see Perth or anything. But yesterday we went down to Cottesloe and went for a run.
It's heaven
down there.
So it doesn't
good.
get much better than Cottesloe.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
The Sunday sesh there. You go on a Sunday to OBH. It's a magic night.
Slaps?
Out. Yeah, it's
All
so
right,
good. We
sick.
were there on Sunday.
That's,
Yeah.
That's one thing we actually have in like WA that we're really grateful for is the Sunday sesh.
Somebody else told me that there's a bloke, I know a bloke in Melbourne at the moment, Trap, and he was telling me, he's like, mate, Sunday's the day. And I'm like, what? That's so strange
It's
to
random,
me.
eh? But it's, oh, in summer, the weather's nice. Everyone's
like
just in the best mood.
It's a christening for like an 18-year-old. Like you go to a Sunday sesh, and obviously we have beautiful sunsets because in Perth the sun sets over the ocean.
Right.
So like you've got the ocean right there, the pubs near the ocean, and it's just magical. Like the vibes are electric.
See, I've sold his on Back of Smart. You're selling me on Perth now. This is good.
Make sure you make a trip back and like a non-fighting trip. And just come and enjoy it. Because
I'll have to.
Perth does have a lot to offer in like a short period of time.
Yeah, for sure.
Dylan and I are big advocates for come to Perth, you'll have fun. But if you're here for too long, it might get a bit boring.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll come back. I'll do maybe 6 days.
Yeah,
6 days, good day. That's a good number.
Rent a car.
Yeah. Right.
You'll be sweet.
Brilliant.
So what started you on like becoming a fighter?
Yeah,
Where
why?
did this begin? Like,
Yeah. So my brother, who you guys just met, he was a kickboxer, and he started kickboxing when I was sort of 12 or 13.
what stage difference between you two?
He's 3 years older than me.
Okay, yeah.
So, and then he came home and said, I'm going to have a fight. And I didn't take much notice because I was pretty big on my rugby. So I didn't really take much notice of it. And then he had to fight. And I remember I was just a kid and I was watching him walk out for this fight. And I was like, everyone went nuts. Same thing. When he was from Back of Smash. So when he walked out, we had like so
Everyone's
many
getting behind
people
him.
had driven into Melbourne to watch him fight. And everyone cheers. And he come out and he knocked the guy out in the first round. And I was just like, that's me. No, I'm going to do that. And then when he got home, I was like, can you take me up the gym? Can you take me up the gym? Pestering him.
How old were you at this stage?
Like 13.
Okay.
And he took me out the back and we had a bag hung up in our pergola, and he taught me how to hit the bag a bit. And then a few weeks later, Mum was sick of me kicking the bag around under the pergola and shaking the whole house. So he took me up to the gym, and then I knew I wanted to be an MMA fighter. He was a kickboxer, but I knew I wanted to do MMA. So I did the kickboxing for a few years. And then one day Ben said to me, because this was sort of, 2007 to 2010. And in 2010, Ben said to me, up until this point, all my jiu-jitsu and wrestling, purely YouTube. Only ever done anything off YouTube. And he said to me, hey, 15 minutes down the road, this guy's opened a gym and he's coaching jiu-jitsu. I was like, oh, that's sick. And my brother, I was on school holidays, summer holidays in high school. And my brother, when he would go to work, would drop me at the gym in the morning and I would train. And then the coach, Heath, who I still work at that gym now, I still coach the younger guys there now. Heath would take me from the gym to his house, set me up with an Xbox and a sandwich during the day.
That's it.
I'd play Xbox. And then when we went back to the gym, when he went and opened the gym at night, I'd go back with him. And then my brother would finish work and he'd pick me up and take me home. So that's where I kind of fell in love with it. And, Heath and my brother were probably the first two people that said to me like, hey, if you want to do this, you could get to the UFC.
Okay.
And then...
Didn't that really click in your mind?
And
like
it clicked
that moment?
then.
You're like,
it clicked then for sure. And I've been training ever since. I had a couple of years off there where I went sort of chased the rugby down a little bit. I went over to Canada and just travelled, and just being a young cunt, essentially.
Yeah.
Like,
Was that
just-
like late teens, early 20s?
No, that was 18.
Yeah.
When I turned 18, I went to Canada, and that was really good to get that out of my system because I think like partying, fucking around, having fun. I did that without having this background thought of I need to fight, I need to be training. So it was kind of just like a good break for me. I came back from Canada a couple of years later, and I was like, right, no more fucking around, 100% in on the fight game, and I've been doing that ever since. But yeah, so now I'm full time, and those boys' faith in me is proven to be right because I'm here in the UFC.
It's amazing.
Crazy.
Has that sunk in
Unbelievable.
yet that the UFC is here and you're
Yeah,
here?
when that moment happened as well, like the Contender Series, and was it
it's
just
kind of
surreal?
bizarre because it's a long process to get in, right? Like you have to be the best guy on the regional scene. And once you're the best guy on the regional scene, there's this timing and luck factor that plays into it as well, where I was the best guy on the regional scene pretty clearly, I think, for at least 3 years before I got my shot to go up. And you're only ever one tiny mistake from not being the best guy on the scene.
Yeah.
No matter what the body of work you put in is, if you go in there and lose one, you're not the best guy anymore, and the UFC doesn't care. So I stayed on that right on the cusp of the call up for so long, and then I got the call, but it was Contender Series, so it's like not fully in yet.
You still have to win.
Yeah, so I kind of inched my way in. It was like get into Contenders, and then even if you win on Contenders, you got to win really well. You're not guaranteed a shot. And then I got the contract, and that was like probably more, that was one of the first times I've won a fight, and more than like the ecstasy that you usually get from winning a fight, it was like relief. It was like I got all the way there. And had I not got a contract, even if I'd won, but if I'd not got a contract, realistically, it puts me back 2 years.
Yeah.
So it's like you've done all this work and you go back 2 years just like
because
that.
you went on that, we watched a little like 10-minute documentary on you. I think you were 2-0, and then was it 2-2, and then you
3-0,
3-0,
then 3-2,
and then you went on the mad win streak.
Yeah, and then
So at what point do you start getting rumors like you might be in for a UFC contract, like after?
So when I won my first Australian title, I was called up as a late notice replacement, and I was essentially
we watched that.
I was essentially bought in as like I was against the hometown boy on the Gold Coast. It was like, well, we'll bring Jack up.
Right.
You were confident with that. We saw.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm fucking better than this guy.
Yeah.
Like, I'll go up there. And I went up there and broke his jaw, broke his leg, finished him in the 4th round, won the title. And I said there and then, I'm like, I'm not just another guy who's fighting here. I'm going to the UFC.
Yeah.
And then you get like the detractors and people who he won this one. Will he get there? I don't know. We'll see. And then defend. First defense, 2nd round TKO. 3rd defense, 2nd round TKO. 4th defense, decision, which was, a dominant win. And then people start to take notice. And with each one of those wins, you add to your credibility about is he gonna get there? And then I fought a guy who was 8-1, I think, on the Contender Series. So again, a super credible opponent and dominated. So yeah, it's a long way to answer your short question, which was, does it feel real? Yes, it does, but that's because I kind of got inched in. It's not like I was not here and then I'm here. I got inched in as I went.
Yeah.
Do you think that's held you in good stead, having, those sort of 2 or 3 years extra before coming into the UFC? Because like you're fighting, like you're still getting fights and you're sort of like improving your game before getting here.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think I was probably... At the start of COVID, I think I was definitely at the level where I could have come in and competed.
Yeah.
So that's not a thing, but I think some guys do get in a little too early, and because you can get away on the regional scene with having some holes in your game and maybe not being super mature around the edges. But once you get to the UFC, it's Top Gun, right? Everyone's good, so you can get found out. But in saying that, I think that the 3 years just made me more hungry, and it let me really like tighten up some things that I wanted to get tightened up, and sort of hardened my resolve a little bit, like even through this, because there was a lot of people in COVID who were, brush your hands of it. I can't do anything, foot off the gas, take some time off. And in fighting, you get a lot of people who are there just waiting for the excuse to not be there.
Yeah.
And we were really lucky with my coaches and stuff where they put in all the effort to have the structure there for us that if you wanted to do the work through COVID, you could.
Okay.
And so instead of taking the foot off the gas, I went hard on it, and every chance there was to fight, I was like, yep, I'm in. Yep, I'm in. So then when it came time for the UFC to come back, I was going to be ready to go.
Sick. And there's this funny thing, I've seen it in your Instagram bio, One Trick Pony.
Yeah.
Right? And I've heard this on another podcast. Was it the Unlaced podcast?
Yeah,
We
yep.
spoke about that. Can you run us through the One Trick Pony thing?
Yeah, so in my Contender Series fight, Dana White, that is the president of the UFC, he makes it really clear that he doesn't watch any tape on anyone who's coming in. He's not interested in what you've done before. You can be from the biggest gym in the world. You can be training partners with the world champ. He doesn't care who you are. It matters what you do on the night. Right. And I went in there, and the matchmakers who had signed me had seen my previous fights where I've broken a few legs, broken jaw. You know, I'm quite a dynamic striker. And then I came out in that fight and I just dominated in pretty much a grappling match. I took him down and dominated. And I used the same takedown probably 3 times, which if you get a takedown and you know he's weak there, it's like, of course I'm going to go back there because it's an easy path. Not necessarily easy, but it's the simplest path to get this win.
Was that your plan before the fight? Did you already kind of recognize that
I wanted to
weakness?
take him down, but I wanted to get a submission.
Yeah.
So what happened that put us in a weird spot was watching his tape. We'd watched that when he gets put on his back, he's a wrestler. So he would turn to his base and expose his back for you. Okay. Right? Which opens up your chokes and your way to finish there. So we thought, if I take him down, good chance he'll turn his back. When he turns his back, I can take his back, I can get a choke, and I can get the finish that way. And usually you get the choke, you get the finish, like you're going to get in.
Yeah.
But I took him down and he played really safe. Like he was happy to sit down. That's why I got the cut on him. His face was just after I saw him in the hotel, his face was just a balloon. There was just bumps everywhere. And he played super safe and wasn't taking that risk to try and get back to his feet, which is really weird. So for me, my game plan was choke him out when he moves, but he just didn't move. He was just happy to sit there and get beaten. But the problem with that is he was happy to sit there and get beaten up, but he was tough as fuck. So he wasn't quitting. He was just getting beaten up.
Yeah.
So I remember at one point, real clearly, I hit him with an elbow and I looked and Dana wasn't even watching. Like he's sitting inside of the cage and you can see and you can hear everything. And he was like looking down. And I was like, oh God, fuck, Dana's on his phone in the middle of my fight. What the fuck?
That'd piss me off personally.
Yeah, well, like it didn't piss me off so much as it was like, fuck, I've got to pull something out of the bag.
Yeah.
And then I remember that Ben P story about he's got the cut. So I started throwing the left elbows, aiming for that eye, and I split him. And I thought I've got a really good chance to finish here. And then I picked it up. And eventually, like at the very end of the 3rd round, he goes, oh, I don't want to be here anymore. I'll try and stand up. And as soon as he turned his back and I took hip ride, I just pounded him out and the ref stopped it.
Yeah.
So it was like one of those things where if I fight someone and they're happy to sit on their back and take punishment, I'll take the win and walk away and be happy.
Yeah.
But on Contender Series, that wasn't enough because if I didn't finish him, I wasn't going to get the contract. But afterwards, Dana said to me, he said on the ESPN interview, he said, look, I don't know if I was going to give Jack a contract because he looked like a one-trick pony tonight. He just did the same thing over and over. And he said, but the boys were telling me, the matchmakers, that he's a really good kickboxer. Okay. So we'll give him a shot.
Right.
And I was just sitting there like, and I don't know, like I'm watching this live as he's in another room telling the reporter. And I'm like, thank fuck. So just got up. That's what I mean. It was more just relief than anything when he said that.
Yeah. It's amazing. That's a great
moment.
story.
Yeah. Crazy.
So you said that your brother got you into fighting from watching his kickboxing fight. Do you think him being a kickboxer has helped with your kickboxing?
Yeah.
Because
I guess that's a weapon for you, isn't it? The leg kick specifically.
Because we've heard, 4 broken legs?
Yeah, I think it's 3.
Okay.
3 in my last
maybe.
5. And the last one was like, I don't know how his leg didn't break. Like his leg probably got beaten up more than the other 3, but it just didn't break.
Mm-hmm. Drinking his milk.
Yeah, strong bones. Yeah. Yeah, definitely me brother. Like he showed me how to throw a leg kick first time I threw one. And a part of it's just naturally how we're built, like smaller, quite explosive hips.
Did you recognise that quite early on, that's a weapon of yours?
Yeah, definitely.
So even when we were walking up here, I saw your calves. They're massive.
Yeah. So like my brother, and people will tell you this still who trained with us way back in the day, his left hand is just like dynamite. He'll never lose it, and he never really had to work that hard to get it.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? So he had to work hard to get the timing to learn it and that sort of stuff. But he hits you with his left hand, and it's just like, holy fuck, that's hard.
Yeah.
My X factor that I always had was kick.
Yeah.
Like I could always kick, especially the low kick, and generate a huge amount of power without a big telegraph. So again, I had the blessing to be able to do that, but it's one thing to rip a hard kick into a bag. It's another thing to be able to get the timing right and set people up so you're ripping the leg at the right time. So the leg kick was always my X factor. So I've just tried to build off that the rest of my skill set.
Also, how much research do you do on an opponent before the fight? And do you have people that help out with that?
Yeah, I personally don't really do much at all.
Yeah.
My coaches watch a lot of tape. I'm really lucky. My head coach, Simon Carson, he's like super analytical, super switched on. So what he does is he sits down and watches all his tape, copies it, puts it in links, puts it in an Excel spreadsheet for me, labels it what he's seen, and then I hit the link and it takes me to the exact part of the video. So he'll be like, he does this a lot. Here's 3 examples of it, and here's how you counter it. So I'll watch those 3 things, and then maybe 2 weeks later or whenever, that's at the start of fight camp. And then 3 weeks later at the end of a session, he's like, all right, we're finishing with this technique. And it's a counter to that move.
Cool.
So I actually don't have to put a lot of the work in. I kind of put the trust in my coaches to do that.
And it's just all there for you.
And then, and I just rock up. So I would probably do 90% of what we do is we just focus on us.
Yeah.
So we make sure we're fit. We make sure we're sharp. We build our skill set. 10% of that fight camp, maybe 10% is like, all right, he does this. Let's make sure we're ready for that. And, we can try and exploit this or that. So, I do have a lot of help with it.
Yeah. You need a good team behind you
100%.
to help out. How do you find what weight you're going to fight at? Because obviously some fighters cut a lot of weight to come down to a division, some not as much. What goes into picking this is the weight class I'm going to be at?
I'll give you a very rudimentary answer that the dietitians will probably hate me for, but find your weight that you're pretty lean at and you're really healthy and you can train hard, and then minus 10% of that, that's the weight you'll fight at.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, because most people, vast majority, over a fight week will cut 10% of their body weight to make weight and then refuel that, which is a ridiculous thing that happens. If you ask me, let's weigh in an hour before the fight, then let's fight. Like the day before weigh-ins and all this stuff, it's all nonsense.
Yeah.
We all go down to weight and then we all refuel and we're all the same weight within a couple of kilos of each other anyway when we get back in there. I think it's the most archaic and worst part of our whole sport. And the thing is, though, it's the weight cutting process is determined by each individual commission. So you can have Victorian Commission different to WA Commission, which is different to the Las Vegas Commission. So they've all kind of go on this old school boxing method, which is weigh in the day before. And no one wants to pull the trigger because if, let's say Perth said we're doing same day weigh-ins, because Perth are trying really hard to help their weigh-in strategy.
Okay.
They've released this new document that's like banned certain things, and you used to be able to weigh in the morning before the fight, whereas now you have to weigh in at night before the fight because they're not letting anyone do more than 24-hour beforehand weigh-ins.
Yeah.
If the Perth government was serious about helping athletes be safer, they would go, no one cuts weight, you weigh in before you get to the fight. You've got a kilo each way. If you've got to be 70, you've got 71 as your max, 69 as your under, or something along those lines, right? Something that looks like that. But instead, because if they do that though, you know what they lose? They lose Eternal. They lose the UFC because no one comes here because all of their weight categories work off that old system, right? So then you have like the Perth government working out, like now they're like, maximum 24 hours before, which doesn't help us. It hinders us because now I've got to get up really early in the morning to start cutting weight because the doors open at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
So you get all these governments who do half and quarter measures to try and help athlete safety. But until we get some like broad scale change in the bigger organizations, we're not gonna change it. And
are you all for same day weigh-in?
All for.
And other fighters you've spoken to, is it mostly,
I don't know. Different people will be different.
Yeah. But you're for that.
Yeah.
For sure.
I don't think anyone can make an argument and I'm hoping to hear it if there is one. I don't think anyone can make an argument that the way we do things now would be better than if we just said, all right, every weight class, add 10% to it, and you weigh in on the same day.
Yeah.
Right? Because we dehydrate ourselves, we rehydrate ourselves. You go through this big process and you're still the same weight as the guy across from you.
Yeah.
Like the principle behind it is me and you fight the same weight. I'm a lot heavier than you. I'm going to cut the weight and then refuel so I'm bigger than you in the cage.
Yeah.
Right? That's the premise behind why it started being done. But then now everyone cuts the weight. So it's like no one's getting a competitive advantage. It's just we're all going down and going back up and putting our bodies through bullshit for nothing.
Yeah.
Right? And, you get some of the promoters and people say, well, no one's forcing you. Right? You can fight at whatever weight you want. I'm not making you fight at bantam. I'm not making you fight at feather. You can fight wherever you want. But that's true. But if I don't cut weight, I fight Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that's just the reality.
And
If
he's going to come in a lot.
yeah, he'll
than
come in
what
at
he wants.
95 kilos and I'll walk in at 72, 73, right? So it's like, it's a one where hard to get the right answer, but I would say same day weigh-ins is the way to solve it. But as of right now, take your weight minus 10%. That's usually what you'll fight at. Okay.
I always tell people, like, I suck at weight cutting. Like, I just don't have the bottle for it, right?
Yeah.
And then same with fighting. Like, I've rarely been in fights. Like, it's just not a part of me. And I don't think I could do what you guys do.
Yeah.
But I guess it's like an internal hunger and desire for you guys.
Yeah. Do you think you're born with it?
Nah, not at all.
Or you just,
Like I think
do you still get nervous or scared ever? Like
for the
thought
weight
of-
cut or for the
or
fight?
just for the fight in general.
Well, a little bit here and there, but you deal with it as you go. As for the weight cut, like it's just mentally switching on to do it.
Right.
Like you gotta, and I think the concept of born with it, there's certain like physical attributes that you have.
Yeah.
But I completely disagree with the premise that somebody's born with like that
Gift.
that
Something like that.
steelness
Oh,
and,
right.
the
that's something
stoicness to be able to like
Yeah.
drive
Yeah.
through anything. I think it's as much of a muscle as anything. Like if you flex that willpower and you're strong on your diet and you get through a workout, every time you do it, that muscle gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Like if you had known me when I was 12, 13, you wouldn't go, this kid just works hard. Like he's an incredibly hard worker. He never quits. Like you would never have picked me as that kid.
Yeah.
But over time, you build yourself into that person and you get better and better and better at it. So as far as I don't have it, it's like, it's because you choose not to have it. Like element of talent, but also the willpower stuff is a muscle that you can flex and you can get better at.
Yeah. That's the thing. We choose to podcast.
Yeah, but it's not for everyone. But like I'm sure in your space, you could float through it and do half efforts on your podcasts and shit like that, and you wouldn't really get results. But you boys obviously grind, you work hard, you're getting bigger. So that's your choice of what you want to do.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just the same shit, just in a different atmosphere.
Let's move on to fight day, right? So UFC 284, you're making your debut. What does your day look like?
So for this upcoming one, it's going to be different because I've never fought in the morning before.
Yeah,
So usually you wake up and it's clock watching and you've got to manage what you eat on that day because you don't want to be too full, but you don't want to be too empty when you get in the cage.
What do you do all day? Like, are
You
just-
like I can play Nintendo
train at all or
Switch
not at all
yeah,
that
you do
day?
a little. You do a
Yeah.
little sweat. We call it like a shakeout, which is basically just get the blood moving.
And are you feeling good usually?
Yeah,
At that day.
yeah, like you've rehydrated. That's why I
Yeah.
said talk about like the silliness of the process, going all the way down and all the way back up. So you get back up to like your normal walk around weight. You might feel a little lethargic, but nothing too bad.
Do you have superstitions? Are you eating the same food and stuff? Or
Yeah,
is
I don't eat anything really that I haven't eaten during the fight camp.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
just so your stomach understands what it's going to get. Like I've made that mistake before. One time I weighed in and I was just fucking hungry and I had eaten so clean the whole fight camp, like chicken and rice and broccoli all fucking day, oats, nothing else. And then I've weighed in and I look across and there's like a grilled there. And I went and got a grilled burger, bro. And this is pretty common. If you ask other fighters, they'll have had this as well. And from after the weigh-in until right before the fight, I just shat.
Yeah.
I just did not stop shitting the whole time. So now it's like whatever your stomach's used to taking on,
Keep it,
that's what I take.
That's what happens to me when I go to Bali.
Yeah,
I go
yeah,
to
you were in
shits 'cause-
trouble, eh? Yeah.
Oh, it was bad. I thought I was
Bali
gonna
belly.
die. Like,
Can be nasty, can't it?
because then all your sweat's gone, and then you're dry reaching. You got nothing. You got nothing left in you.
Yeah, it's
and then
good
you
days.
don't want to eat, and it's just a
Yeah,
nightmare.
you start thinking about it. Like, I can't eat that. I don't want to get sick again.
It's funny
Starts playing on
what
your
you're
mind.
saying about having to wait around for like a normal fight night. We've actually got a social indoor soccer game tonight at 9:20 p.m. So we'll just be sitting around all afternoon trying
Yeah,
to eat
that's like what he's had to do
Yeah,
with
yeah,
it.
exactly.
1% of the
Same.
level.
Comparable. Apples for apples there.
Yeah, I got a cut after this actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, so how do you usually what's it like going about waiting all day, and then how do you think you go this time fighting in the morning?
I don't think the morning's going to be an issue for me because I train in the morning anyway. So
Yeah.
we started pretty early on in the fight camp, making sure my body clock was ready to switch on in the morning.
Yeah.
So even now, I'm still going to bed and waking up on Melbourne time.
Yep.
So I'm still like I was in bed at 8:30 last night, and then I was up at sort of 5 this morning.
Yeah.
Because that's Melbourne time for me. It's like
3
a
hours.
10:30, 11
Yeah,
o'clock
yeah, yeah.
bed, and then up at 7 a.m., which is going to work out well for fight day because I'm going to get up early, get my breakfast in, and then go from there. Normal day, it's wake up and just clock watch. Like
Yeah.
play Nintendo if you got time, read a book, chill
What
out,
games
go
do you
get a
play?
coffee. Like if I have my PC, if I'm at home, I'm playing like Warzone or
Yeah.
something like that. But if I've only got the Switch, I just get the boys and I'm like, right, boys, we're playing Mario Kart.
Yeah,
And they're
same,
like,
yeah.
fuck, because I just smoke them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, tough it out, boys. You got to come through a few Grand Prix here. We got to kill some time. But yeah, for this one, it'll be nice. It'll be wake up, eat. The bus will pick us up fucking bright and early, maybe 6 o'clock. I reckon the bus will pick us up and take us to the venue. Wrap my hands, warm up. Before I know it, I'll be walking out fighting.
And will the bus, you were saying that blue corners on one level, reds on, so will that bus be for the blue corner?
Yeah, we'll have
Yeah.
separate buses.
Yeah.
Yeah. They keep us. Like if I was to walk into my opponent, like down in the
Have
lobby,
you? Or will
I haven't
that
seen
happen
him.
or
Yeah,
not?
that'll happen
Okay.
for sure. If I was to walk into him, hey, how you going? Shake his hand, whatever.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
got
yeah.
no animosity. He's here to do a job. I'm here to do a job. But yeah, obviously have fights where that's not the case.
Yeah.
So like the UFC makes sure then you're never on the same bus. Even for some people, not if there's animosity, it's for their mental space.
Yeah.
They don't like to be around that person.
Yeah.
So they make sure it's all separate. They schedule your interviews on different days. So like if I'm on level 3, they don't want him around level 3 and that sort of stuff. But I'm sure I'll run into him and I'll say g'day and
Yeah, so how are you feeling about your upcoming opponent?
He's good. Look, his last fight he lost, but it was I think he got the call up on like a week's notice.
Yeah.
And he fought a guy who was top 10 in our division. So I'm completely scratched that from my memory. The only thing I'm thinking about is that he's a prospect who's on a big win streak, who's doing his UFC debut. I'm a prospect on a big win streak on my UFC debut, and we're going to find out who's on the upward trajectory from here. And I think I've got all the skills to be able to do it. Show up on Sunday and put the pressure on, lots of damage early in the fight, and then start to get my rhythm.
What are his main strengths? Because we don't know much about him.
He's a good wrestler.
Yep.
He's got good ground and pound, takes people down and holds people down,
Right.
doing enough damage that the ref lets him go. He's twitchy. He gets people to react on things.
Right.
And he's explosive. So it'll be a good fight because I use a few of those attributes, but I'm a little bit more calculated. I think he's trying to do one or two things. I'm trying to set you up on like the 3rd, 4th, 5th phase of
Yeah,
what we're
okay.
doing. I'm trying to counter. I'm trying to make you move the way I want you to move and that sort of stuff. So we're contrasting styles in that sense, but we're quite similar body types. So I think it's going to be a great fight. Like I think it's going to be really, really interesting fight. And I've got some stuff I've been working on that I'm really excited to get out there and show.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you said your fight will be around 8 a.m. Western Standard Time.
Yeah, 8 a.m. Perth time, maybe 11 in East Coast time.
And then are you sticking around for the rest of the day?
Yeah, yep. Sticking around for the rest of the day. I'll stick around, watch the rest of the fight card and that sort of thing. Obviously, like I was just telling you boys, I don't plan anything for after a fight.
Yeah.
Right? So the fight is the end
Yep.
and the beginning. It's everything. So, I've got like an after party, which somebody's got sorted out for me at Pirate Life, the brewery or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
But like I haven't even thought about going there, and in my mind I haven't even committed to going. Like it's purely dependent on how I perform. I've got to go out and perform well, and not that it's going to be a reward or a punishment for me either way. It's just that that stuff doesn't even cross my mind. All I'm thinking about is that 15 minutes that I get in the cage. Whatever happens after that, I can take it as it comes.
How's that 15 minutes in the cage feel? Does it feel longer than 15? Like when the doors close?
Sometimes it feels long, and sometimes it's like a snap.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like my best performances have always come when I'm super present and like time almost slows down a little bit for you.
Okay.
If you feel like your head's elsewhere while you're fighting, that's when I've had my least impressive performances.
When opposition coaches are talking to their fighter, are you listening?
Yeah, all the time.
Yep.
And I talk back to them.
Okay.
Yeah, I had one fight where opposition coach was saying like, Rod, you got to jab, and I said, he's not listening, Ben, because I knew his coach, and then when we went to the corner, I could see Ben was talking to him and saying stuff, and I was just yelling at Ben because I've got a good relationship with his coach.
Yeah.
We're quite friendly. I was yelling, Ben, don't let him come back out. I was like, don't let him come back out here for this third round. I'm going to fuck him up. And they're like looking over his shoulder. So, yeah, I like when I'm having fun like that, that's when I'm at my best. When I'm like, engaged, fully present, I can hear what they're saying and that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's what I do.
It makes you look real confident too.
Yeah.
Like people would be like, okay, he's switched on, he's ready to go, and he backs himself.
Yeah, for sure.
And what are those feelings like? So your first professional win and then your first professional loss, what do they feel like when in the moment?
My first professional win was like a blur. Like I was just so up.
Just like
what?
what?
It's like you're so up and about. It's hard even to explain. And obviously you have like a crash after that because you're so excited and you've done this big camp, the weight cut, everything. And then you fight and you win. You're so excited. And then like a week later, you're like, oh, fuck, what do I do now? Like everything just dies off a little bit. And my first loss was just so hard to take because in my mind I was invincible. Like I couldn't never lose rounds in the gym, never fuck around. Like I worked my ass off. Like it was almost unfathomable that I could lose.
Was it good to have that early on, you think?
I think it was brilliant for me. Like I think it was the best thing for me because I was probably on a trajectory because my first 3 fights had all been first round KOs. It was like I was probably on a trajectory to go to the very top of our division very quickly. And I was still so young and really green in my skill set. So it made me, those 2 losses made me take a step back and go, what are the real holes in my game, both physically and mentally, and how can I fix them? So, it's still just part of growing up and maturing as a fighter is that you take your losses, you deal with them, you take your wins and you deal with them. So now I don't put too much emphasis on the result. I just put the emphasis on the preparation. And if I'm happy with the prep, I usually go into the fight feeling really happy.
Who are your favourite fighters? Past and present.
Past and present. My favourite fighter growing up was probably Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo was the champ at 145 for a long, long time. Now I love Conor McGregor. Like I hope he comes back and I hope he does really well.
Yeah.
That's set up, isn't it? He's the ultimate
him and
fighter
Chandler.
coach, and then they're going to fight after. We'll see how that goes.
So like you can say what you want about Conor and his recent antics and that sort of stuff, but he completely lifted the ceiling for every single fighter ever. Like I'll talk to my uncles or like someone who knows nothing about MMA and outside of the brand UFC wouldn't know a fighter's name. And now a lot of those guys will be like, oh, so that's Conor McGregor's division.
Yeah.
And like he's put so many eyes on the sport that, where in 10 years time, everyone's going to look back and be like, how special was that we were around when Conor was.
Well, see, that's how I actually got into fighting was when he was on his come up.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason I'm into UFC now is because of how much like commotion he caused.
Yeah,
like,
he was crazy.
You wanted to watch.
He was an enigma. He was so special.
Yeah, I watched it. My brother's a lot older than me, so I was watching it for a long time when like Chuck Liddell and stuff were fighting.
Back in the Iceman.
He's 13 years older than me, so he was into it.
Yeah.
But then seeing Conor come along, it just introduced like what we were saying before. The personality of fighters was shown, like the talking aspect.
For sure.
Completely changed it. Like it wasn't like that at all, and it brought so many eyes to the sport, and it's so exciting when he fights now.
Oh, he's just like
It changed everything.
Yeah, like I would love to get on the card, that Chandler McGregor undercard. So hopefully I can, garner some credit with the matchmakers and find a way to get onto that Chandler McGregor card because I've said to all my friends all love the UFC, and if the ones who didn't are really into it now that I'm in it, and I've said, if we get a chance, whether I'm on the card or not, and McGregor comes back this year, we have to go.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, 10 years, 20 years, when he's gone, it's be like, imagine when your dad's saying to you, like, I saw Ali, or I watched Tyson. It's just one of those things that we'll be able to say, we were at a McGregor event, we went to the weigh-ins, we did all this stuff. So
Do you still think there's a lot left in his tank?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know. I don't care though. I don't care. Like,
You
I
just
think
wanna see
he's,
him.
I just want to be there. Yeah.
In terms of the matchmakers and like, is there any way that you can put in a request and you say, I want to fight on this date or anything like that?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. They take into account what you want.
Right.
Like if you say I'm unavailable from here to here, there's not much they can say. But the big thing about our sport is like when opportunity comes, you've got to take it. So I wouldn't be here if I was the guy who said no to a lot of opportunities. I'm the guy who says, yes, I'm keen, let's do it. So I'm going to carry that through now with the UFC. I've got my whole life to go to Italy. I've got my whole life to spend time with my family and that sort of stuff. And I do prioritize that time when I have the chance now. But as far as, boys' trip to Bali and that sort of stuff, I'm happy to say no to all of that stuff now on the chance that I get the call and go, we need you in 4 weeks, we need you in 6 weeks, we need you in 8 weeks, because those opportunities, once you say no to them, they won't. And you don't get asked again.
This isn't big compared to like
it's so
the lifespan.
It's so small. Like you only get a certain amount of time to be an athlete and soak up weeks like this and soak up chances to do interviews and have fun with it. So I'm going to take it both reins when I've got it.
And do you have a prediction for your fight and then for the main event, Islam versus Volk?
Yep. Main event is going to be a decision win to Alex Volkanovski.
That's what we like to hear.
We do like to hear that.
And my fight going to be a second round TKO to me.
Right.
Okay. I like it.
How are you going to do it?
Probably body shots.
Yep.
I think the body will wilt him and then I'll find an opening from there.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Sounds like
Love
a big
that.
day. Big Sunday.
Yeah,
Sunday
big
session
Sunday,
after, mate.
exactly.
After the big win. You love it.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this question. We ask all our guests this question, and it's a pretty deep one. You can have some time to think about it if you want.
Yep.
How would you like to be remembered when all is said and done?
I want to be remembered as being a completely different person in the ring than I am out of it. Like I just want people to be able to say that, when Jack signed a fight and when he was committed to a fight, he was the most malicious, vindictive person you could face in the cage. But then, if any fans or anything met me after that they could say that I was nothing but nice and friendly and, courteous to everyone I met, no matter who they were. But also, as well as that, I want a big fat bank account.
Yeah.
I respect that. Yeah,
So do
bro.
I.
Yeah.
I'm actually sensing that now, not in regards to the bank account, but you being real nice and like humble and kind outside of the ring.
Yeah, we were wondering what it was going to be like walking in with all these fighters. We were like, are they going to be like kicking walls and shit? Like, is it going to be scary? We see like all these
walked
jiu-jitsu
past.
guys out the front and we're like, this is crazy. We've never seen it
Because
before.
we didn't realise that everyone was in the one hotel. That's something we've learnt today,
Yeah.
which is a beautiful
Yeah.
thing. But yeah, we were like walking in, we saw all these big dudes with tats.
Yeah,
and
we had
neck
like our
tats.
backpacks and then there's got like all these neck tattoos with like BJJ shorts on. I was
And
like, holy shit.
It's funny. I've been to one UFC event in the past with a friend of mine, Dan Kelly, took me to one of his fights. And it's real funny. You walk around the lobby and it's just like, these guys are all killers. It's like they've all got the cauliflower ears.
Yeah.
They're all like jacked and you're like, that guy isn't even fighting, but he looks like he could fuck me up. And the week of the fight, in the lobby, you see like a lot of sizing up, like, because other guys in my division, he's pretty big. Like that guy's in my division, he doesn't look that big or whatever. I know that guy. That guy's a champ in this division, whatever. And then something happens like after fight night, everyone's in the lobby and it's just like everyone's friends. Like it's this big like
That tension's
kind of
kinda
the
gone.
tension just leaves because everyone's done their work. And I think most people's perception of what an MMA fighter is in terms of personality is so far from what it is.
Yeah.
Like most of them are really calm, intelligent people. And their perception would be, sort of aggressive meatheads. And it's just not the case. So
I'm sure there'd be a few though.
Oh, there's lots of meatheads. Don't get me wrong. Especially, I think the meatheads get weeded out earlier in the
really?
scene.
Okay.
Right? So meatheads who come into fight gyms genuinely don't last long because you have to be really smart to fight. Like it's such a complex game of inputs and outputs in terms of beating someone. So they come in and they think they can swing hard shots and win, and they get beat up.
Yeah.
And often they don't have the wherewithal to stand through the training until they get better. And even on the local scene, you see a lot of tough aggressive guys who have 1 or 2 fights and then they fade away because they don't stick around. But by the time you get to the UFC level, yes, there's still some meatheads for sure. But most of the guys you would meet down in the lobby who are fighting here, you'd be surprised that they're quite intelligent, quite switched on about the way they go about things, and they also just happen to be really, adept at violence.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
100%.
There we go.
That's one thing I love about the podcast and meeting heaps of different people from, different walks of life is that everyone has their own personality and they're not stuck to that one stereotype that you always think. So
like vanilla
Yeah.
footy players.
yeah.
Like you boys Perth, big footy fans. You like
Yeah,
West
yeah,
Coast or Freo or whatever.
Yeah, Freo.
You can verbatim put a photo of an AFL player up and put the question, and you could write the answer for him, and it would be the exact same as what they say.
Yeah.
Because they're also vanilla and media trained that they're not allowed to have. They're almost detrained on how to speak and then retrained. This is what the AFL wants you to say.
Media training is so
For sure.
politically
Yeah,
correct.
Like when was the last time a footy player said to the media what you think they would actually think?
Yeah.
Like I can't remember it.
Well, that's,
They're
I
just-
guess that's
years
the
ago
one
or
thing about the
something.
UFC is because as a brand, it's so like not controlled by the media. Like you can say what you
Yeah,
want.
yeah.
The athletes are like that as well.
Like
Yeah,
you're doing this right now and saying whatever you like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can say whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
Like, and I know because Dana's showed it through supporting people through their different opinions is like,
Even
I
through,
can
like,
say what I
COVID,
want.
keeping the show
I'm
going.
welcome to say what I
Yeah.
want as long as I don't, do dumb shit that brings the company into a bad light. I can say whatever the fuck I want. This is the
Yeah.
fight business. But fuck, I get so fired up about the AFL boys because they're just so, and it's not their fault.
Yeah.
It's the media. They're so controlled. They can't have an opinion on pretty much anything to
Yeah.
do with footy without like being squashed back down.
That's
And
like,
it's like,
we always get that. Sorry for interrupting. We get that thought when we always look to get like an AFL player on. I get the thing is there much point?
There's pretty
They're
much
not gonna
they
give
can't
you
say
much.
anything.
yeah, they're not allowed to.
They're not
And
allowed
one time
to.
we had someone on was when he was actually delisted. He was cut from the team, and we got him a few days after it had happened.
Yeah.
so he could say whatever the fuck he
Yeah,
wanted.
yeah,
Yeah.
And then you go like, fuck, why don't we get this like at the halftime interviews, like when they're
Yeah.
walking off the field? Like, how good would it be if like someone's walking off and they're like, oh, what are you thinking of the game? And they're like, yeah, Joel Selwood dog shotted one of our boys, so
gonna
we're
smack
coming
him.
back out here. We're going to be fired up, like
Yeah.
ready to go, and then just run off and. Imagine the eyes on the game from
Yeah.
that. It's like, boys,
true.
tune into the rest of the game. The Geelong boys are fired up, or the West Coast boys are fired up.
It's same. You see it in tennis as well with Nick Kyrgios. Like he's a firecracker player. Like we
Yeah.
love to watch him. We're not even the biggest tennis fans, but we'll watch if he's playing because he's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Kyrgios, king.
Yeah.
King. One of my favourite athletes from Australia and always done it his way. You be, I used to get in arguments with people who would be like, Kyrgios, if he doesn't want to represent us and try his hardest, he shouldn't even be there. And it's like, fucking, how many office workers do you know that go and put in 100% every day they go to work? Fucking no one. They all go coast, but you got no problem with them. He's doing fucking earning millions. And yeah, sometimes he doesn't fucking try hard, but he's a king. Like
It's his choice as
yeah,
well.
it's his choice. He's good enough at it to earn money doing it. Don't fucking tell him he can't do that while you work your office job and, put in 100% every day.
That's the thing.
And that's not knocking people who do office jobs. It's just the criticism annoys
Yeah.
me for Kyrgios.
It's not consistent.
Yeah,
across-
it's not
They
consistent
don't hold
across the
everyone to
board.
the same standard.
Yeah, and Kyrgios, it's like he works his ass off. I'm sure. Like he has his moments where he's down and out, but he works his ass off. And as soon as he starts winning, the media and the crowd change on him like that.
Yeah.
When he's
Yeah.
playing
Yeah.
well, it's like he's our boy. We love
Australia's
Kyrgios.
sweetheart.
Yeah. And then he has a meltdown and fucking doesn't try one day, and everyone's like, he is so bad, like such a bad example for the youngsters. And you're just like, shut the fuck up.
You even saw it like with this Australian Open. Like the media was all over him. like praising him before the Australian Open, thinking, okay, he's got a really good
Yeah,
chance.
he had to pull out.
And then he pulls out through injury and he got absolutely abused.
Yeah, and they're like Nick Kyrgios riding around Melbourne on
Yeah,
a
like,
scooter
what a
without his
dangerous-
without his helmet on. Like, you fucking losers.
And he had knee surgery a couple of days later. Like, that's a legitimate surgery. It's
Yeah.
not like he's pulled out through a fake injury.
Yeah.
And people forget, like, he's one of the only people to ever live that has beaten Djokovic, Nadal, and Federer.
Yeah.
There's not many people ever that could say that.
Yeah.
It shows how talented he is.
And he does it playing fucking 2K most of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
He just rocks
is
up with
elite.
his
It's
missus,
elite.
trains or hits with her for 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
it's
Little-
funny.
little warm
There's
up.
a video of like Nadal with his coach going like full crazy,
And he's in the court next,
he's in the
yeah.
court next to him with his girlfriend, just,
Playing fucking
yeah.
pickleball or something. Funny cunt.
What a way.
What hobbies do you have outside of fighting? So, like, just let the people know, because a lot of our listeners wouldn't even watch the UFC. It's just great to have you on because you're giving people an insight. So, what hobbies do you have outside of the sport for people who, wouldn't know?
I'm a huge horse racing fan.
Yep.
Love the races.
As my dad is, he loves it.
Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. Love the horse races. Love following it, particularly like in the spring in
Yep.
Melbourne and in the autumn up in Sydney.
The one-day protesters on Melbourne Cup Day.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
always come
exactly.
out
Yeah,
of the woods.
those heroes
Is
who
your family involved in
Nah,
racing
I did
or no?
work experience as a farm farm growing up, on a thoroughbred farm, training racehorses. But I never got into it. Like, my family's not big into it. I love the sport.
Yeah.
I used to froth it when I was like in high school, and then it's carried with me now.
Who's your favourite jockey?
Favorite jockey, Jamie Carr.
Yeah,
By a
same
long
with my
way.
dad.
Yeah, she's a superstar. She's the best horseman I've ever seen, I reckon. Like,
Yeah.
the way when she gets on a horse that's been fucking up with all these other jockeys, she just has a way to just settle them
How
down
straight
into
her
a
back
rhythm.
is
Yeah.
straight as well.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, it's actually funny. My favorite jockey is Jamie Carr, and my favorite trainer is Annabelle Neesham. So,
Oh, yeah. There you go.
two females who are changing the game in the racing industry. And then I love to game. Like, I'm getting a brand new PC built for me by Aftershock, who's a big PC company.
Okay.
They build me a full custom water cooled one, and I'm going to be streaming on Kick Streaming.
Okay.
So, different kind of games and stuff. I'm not a superstar gamer. I'm very much a park gamer. Like, I'm average, but
Yeah.
I'll jump on there and do some streams, do some fun
See how you
stuff.
go.
Maybe a few like punting / gaming streams. So
Yeah.
that'll be good.
Would you, as soon as you get added to the UFC game, are you on there controlling yourself?
Yeah, 100%.
That'd be
Who's
sick,
not
eh?
playing with himself the first day you get added to the UFC game?
That'd be
I'm like,
sick.
yeah. And then I'm fucking complaining about all my skills. 75 cardio. What the fuck is this? Yeah. And then, like, I just love hanging out with my mates and my family, like the usual shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, races, gaming, gambling.
Yeah.
Within my
Yeah,
rule set,
yeah,
I'm quite disciplined, so I don't have that personality that's going to lose it.
Yeah.
So set a limit, enjoy it, have fun with my mates and family at the races and that sort of thing. I game a lot, and then hanging out with my girlfriend, hanging out with my mates, hanging out with my family, just all the basic stuff.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Just one of the lads.
one of the
Also a
lads.
killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, also a killer.
Yeah, also a killer.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. That was
All right.
beautiful. That was
Yeah,
wonderful.
that's
Thanks for
that was
joining us.
sick.
It's a pleasure to have you on.
No, thanks for getting me in. Thanks for coming into the room, making life easy for me.
No
It was
worries,
good.
mate. Good
Second
luck.
round TKO.
Yeah.
Good
This
luck
will
for
come out the
Sunday.
day after, so
That screen went off.
nah, it's still recording.
still
It just
recording.
like sleep mode.
Producers over there. He's
Yeah, doing
working
fucking
hard.
But no, good luck for Sunday. We'll be tuning in.
Yep.
And yeah, all the best. Thanks
All
for
right.
coming.
Thanks, boys. Cheers.
Perfect.
Thank you for listening to the Jamo and Dylan Show. Make sure to subscribe to the boys on YouTube and share the podcast with a mate.